Welcome along to the Sporting Life and Timeform Weekends Best Bets. David Orr, delighted to be joined by Kieran Clark and Matt Brocklebank to look ahead to Saturday's action, and might be a little bit before the Lord Mayor's show. We've got the glamour and glory of the Randox Square National Entry next weekend, but still competitive stuff to be seen on both north and south of the border this weekend. Matt, I'm going to start with you. What's catching your eye ahead of Saturday's action?
Well, Dave, it's a bit like a sort of continental style buffet at the minute, isn't it? You can step in and get a bit of everything, but at the same time, and not too dissimilar to a continental buffet, there's a bit of guesswork involved, certainly when it comes to the flat side of things, because you've got so many horses coming back off layoffs. Obviously, there's a valuable card up at Musselburgh. My own focus, and certainly in terms of the value bet column this week, is at Haydock. You just find that you've just got so much more to go on, so much more solid form through the winter, and then obviously these horses that have been kept relatively fresh for the springtime. And one that stands out for me falls into that latter bracket, which is Neil Mulholland's sort of relative veteran now, Kansas City Chief, because he was kept away from the worst of the weather over the winter months. He didn't race at all through December and January, but then he came back with quite an eye-catching run. I thought it was heavy ground at Wincanton towards the end of February, and he finished third, just plodding on, which teed him up quite nicely, and he attracted a bit of support. I know the guys who do our punting pointers put him up at the Pertemps final at Cheltenham at a huge price. I think it might even have been sort of 66, 50 to 1, and he ended up going off 28 to 1. Unfortunately, didn't get past the fifth hurdle there. It looked a relatively soft unseat, but poor Millie Wonnacott has suffered an injury and is still out, recuperating from that. So Tom Scudamore comes in for the ride, and I just thought he was quite interesting off the same mark as when he ran at Cheltenham, because he was travelling with a fair bit of enthusiasm. He really did look on good terms with himself, and I think, like so many of Neil Mulholland's horses, they've held his form quite well, and the yard seemed to be in pretty good form. So look, he's £2 lower than when he was third in the Pertemps qualifier behind Honest Vic right at the start of the season. He featured in value bet then as an each way bet. I think he's a win bet now. He's 12, 14 to 1. I think anything around 10 or above is a bet, and he's definitely going to like the conditions, because it's decent up at Haydock as well.
A win-only bet there from Matt Brocklebank for the Haydock card. Kieran, you're heading further north for your selection.
Yeah, hi Dave. Up at Musselburgh for my selection in probably one of the most competitive handicaps all weekend in that Scottish Sprint Cup. And my selection would be the David Barron trained Zarzini. Now, this is a horse who had really good form as a 2-year-old. He was chasing the likes of Armory and Lope Fernandez. He was 4th and 3rd in 2 Group 3s as a 2-year-old, and he made quite an encouraging start to life as a 3-year-old last season as well. He was 3rd in a Group 3 behind Art Power and Mill Isle at Naas, and then the wheels rather fell off, and he got sold at the end of the season for €62,000. He left Nick Alford. He joined the resurgent David Barron, who was having a really good run of things this season after a poor season last year. And I thought he made a really encouraging start on his stable debut at Wolverhampton. He was a little bit keen, so the drop back to 5 definitely won't be an issue. And I really liked what he did there. He only got beat a length and a quarter. He should strip fitter for the run, and I think he's probably been laid out for the race on what is a career low mark as well. And I really like the angle this time of year of horses that have had a run against those who are reopposing. He definitely strip fitter for it, and he's got a very good draw in 12, that dogleg track at Musselburgh. There's pace around him, and I think he's going to run a very big race. Around 6 to 1 looks fair in my opinion. The other one at the head of the market, Jabberwocky's drawn in 10, and Just Another Bottle's drawn 11. So they're all drawn together. Just Another Bottle can miss the kick, which is definitely could be an issue at Musselburgh. But I think Jabberwocky's going to give Zarzini a nice toe into it, and fingers crossed he can pick him off late on in what is a competitive event, but hopefully he can have some fun with him this season, connections, and get off to a winning start here.
Sounds gloriously simple. Great stuff there, Kieran. I do think there's an angle there with a lot of the yards failed to get going at all last season. Ended up with mixed campaigns off the back of it, some quite high-profile ones too. We'll have some quite well-handicapped horses this time around, having never managed to find their stride during the truncated 2020 season. Matt, I know you've got an alternative view on that race, or another one to consider.
Yeah, definitely. I do have a lot of time for Zazzini. I'd be amazed if he couldn't win races off a mark of 90. I actually put him up, took a chance on him in the column when he ran at Wolverhampton, because he just looked like one of them that could improve enormously for joining David Barron. And he did run a very pleasing race. Now, he's obviously into a fair bit shorter now. He's kind of like a 5-to-1 shot now, whereas he was 10 and 12's first time out when I thought he was worth taking a chance. So he's shown his hand to some extent. And I thought, in terms of the draw, I would agree entirely, but I've gone even higher and a bigger price. I was quite interested in Sun and Sani, who has, again, a similar sort of profile, joined from Ireland, and he's joined a real sprint specialist trainer in Paul Midgley. And he just found the ground a little bit soft on his first two starts in the autumn time, but then in November, he ran twice on the all-weather, once at Wolverhampton and once at Lingfield, winning the first time, and then finished third behind Leehu at Lingfield. And I think that's quite good form. Like he's obviously up in grade here. He goes from like class 4 level to class 2. So it's going to be quite a key change for him. But the form worked out quite well from Lingfield. You know, Leehu won again in the second. New York State of Mind won. The fourth won since. And I think 7th Sarhex won a race since as well. And they've been doing it at a fairly low level. But for all-weather form, it's worked out quite well. And again, he's been put away. I'd be amazed if Paul Midgley left much to work on in terms of fitness, because he has a superb record in this race, not only winning it a couple of years ago, but he's had kind of the 3rd and 4th and 5th. And he runs 4 again this weekend. And whereas Orvar, I was quite tempted by him, the stablemate, but he's drawn 1 right over towards the middle of the track. And like Kieran, I'm going to be looking high. And I think Sun and Sami, I mean, you're taking a chance on fitness, and as we speak on Friday afternoon, he's quite easy to back. He's sort of 18, 20 to 1. So we'll see how he goes, but I think it's a price worth taking, maybe, Dave.
And I know nobody asked, but I think it's a fascinating 2-year-old race, the first race on the card at Musselburgh, before the big Northern Yards running horses there. And I think it's significant. We've already had strong words for 2 of them, the Richard Fahey runner and the Kevin Ryan runner. Already tips flying around for the 2 calls. I think it could prove to be a very informative juvenile maiden that up at Musselburgh, the opening race on the card. Now, not that anybody asked about that, nor did they ask for my selection, but you're getting it anyway. It's down at Newton Abbot. I'm heading right down to the southwest country. I'm going to have a pint of scrumpy cider, watch Heritage win the handicap chase at 5.25 for Paul Nicholls. He's a horse who's just been bogged down in the mud the last twice. It's not been his cup of tea at all. He's been way below form. Handicap has been a bit kind off the back of it. He's now a pound lower than when chasing on with Lucy Bell on good to soft ground in a better race than this at Newbury in November. And it's interesting, his Betfair column, Paul gives this horse a good mention, thinks the ground's perfect, track and trip should be ideal, and Heritage, with a bit of luck, should be winning the 5.25 at Newton Abbot.
I promised a buffet, Dave, and we delivered there, haven't we?
There's got everything, isn't it? I mean, I didn't get the name of the 2-1 race 2-year-old. That's where a professional would have got, I was ready for you. He would have been able to actually name the horses. But they're trained by Kevin Ryan and Richard Fahey. Richard was quite interested in his Sporting Life column that this 2-year-old Katoom has actually been up to Malton on the grass gallop, and that his Brocklesby runner, who went off favourite, hadn't had the benefit of that experience of a proper gallop on grass, and it showed when he came off the bridle. He was very green, and I expect a much more professional performance than the Musselburgh runner at Musselburgh. And we do seem to spend so much of our time discussing an unraced horse or unraced horses on a podcast that is about form and analysis. So that's a great effort from me. But thank you to Kieran and thanks to Matt. Selections there from Musselburgh, Haydock and Newton Abbot. And that's your tips from the Sporting Life and Timeform guys, our weekend best bets for Easter Saturday.